Ian, first of all, extraordinary, really, that we've got to this stage of Christmas and you've still not had any football. What's it been like? As a coach, you've accounted for games. Are you having to do other things on the training session to account for the lack of competitive football?
Yeah, I mean, it's really frustrating because I think we're in such a good place. 3 wins on the bounce, and we felt like we were gaining really good momentum, and then we were gearing up for the games over the Christmas period. So then to have none is really frustrating. But at the same time, yeah, we've had to, like today, we had a really, really tough training session. We've tried to maximise the time that we get on the training pitch to keep the players where we want them in preparation for the next game. So yeah, really frustrating to only have 1 league game in the whole of December, especially when you feel like you've got that momentum. But it is what it is. It's we make the best of what we do on the training pitch then.
Did you want to play that game at Kings Lynn? Because there were suggestions from their end and comments from their chairman, Stephen Cleave, as well, that the pitch really was playable and that maybe there was influence from obviously the referee's decision, but also maybe that Notts didn't want to play.
Yeah, I heard about that, and I think it's quite absurd suggestion. We turned up ready to play a game. We'd had absolutely no inclination that there was any issue with the pitch. When we got there, immediately the ref said, "Ian, I think you need to see the pitch. In my opinion, it's not playable." The ball, there was a lot of surface water on the pitch, and we had staff at their ground early in the day setting up, and there wasn't anybody working on the pitch. I think after the referee expressed that there may be a concern and that we want to give it another 20 minutes to see how it settles, there was a couple of guys that kind of put a bit of effort in to try to remove surface water, but it was too little too late. So my opinion is if Kings Lynn felt so strongly that this was a really important game to play and economically they needed to play it, I understand that, but there should have been preparation for the weather, because the weather we knew that it was going to be a lot of rain. There was no rain covers on, there was no groundsman working on the pitch, so shouldn't be a surprise to them that the game was off. I certainly didn't plan to travel to Kings Lynn on Boxing Day, sit in a dressing room and play no football. So every single person associated with Notts County wanted that game. I didn't want our supporters to travel there and not see a game of football, but sadly that decision was taken out of our hands, and I think it could have been preventable given the fact that there was rain for a couple of days, but there's measures that you can take to protect the pitch.
But he also said he wanted to rearrange it pretty quickly, I think, for Tuesday, but instead it's moved to January. What's happened there?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like, you only have to look at a weather report to know that the rain was getting heavier for the next 2 days. The pitch wasn't playable on a Sunday. To call us Sunday night and ask to play on Tuesday night would have meant that we then would have had to have sold tickets and rely on our fans to travel again, maybe 700-800 fans to put themselves out at a cost to travel. We have to then at a cost rearrange everything at our end. We have to totally rip up and change the training schedule, which will affect also the Wrexham game. For the likelihood is another called off game anyway, because the weather wasn't getting any better and the pitch certainly wasn't going to improve. So it was thrown out there that we could play Tuesday night, but it's completely unrealistic. We have to think about the supporters first at this point, because so many travelled and was disappointed. So let's put it at a later date when we know it can happen. We can get the fans over and have a proper game of football, and I think everybody would prefer that.
Is the backlog of fixtures causing any concern at the moment, with the prospect of the number of games that are being called off at the moment and the possibility of more in coming weeks around the division? Is it causing some concern about a potential backlog?
Yeah, for me it is, because we've now had 2 games called off through absolutely no fault of our own. We've been ready to play both fixtures. So then it's, we're going to end up with a backlog, and it's not something that I think that we've been able to have very much control over. So it's frustrating. We'll end up getting these games shoehorned in at a more inconvenient time. That's a really frustrating thing for us, but we're going to have to deal with it. I have to say, when we played at the back end of last season, Saturday, Tuesday, we got a brilliant momentum up and we did great. So there can be a plus to having a lot of games in a short space of time. But of course, we're now in a position where we've dropped a little bit in the league, although we're only 5 points off the top, and we've got those games in hand in the bank. We've just got to make sure that we prepare well and that we're at our best to maximise the games in hand that we've got.
What about this weekend coming then? Inevitably, the first question ahead of a weekend at the moment is, how is everybody? Have you got COVID cases? Is everyone okay for it?
No, I mean, I think so far we've done great to maintain the COVID, but sadly this week we have got some cases within the playing squad. We are very, very thin right now. I would say that we're right on the edge of how many players that we've now got available. So that's really disappointing. But we are endeavouring to do everything that we possibly can to make sure that the game is on. If we have the players available, we want to play the game. I'm not somebody that wants to use this as an excuse, but we have got cases within the playing squad and staff, and that we are very thin for the weekend. So that's a big concern. We know what a big game it is, but with the smaller group that we've got, we're trying to be extremely careful now to make sure that we don't get any more cases and that we have as many players as we can available for the weekend. But it was a small group training today.
With the cases that you've got, could you in theory get the game called off? Are you choosing actively not to do that?
I think based on what we've got now, probably yes, we could call the game. But I feel quite strongly that if we have players available, that we should try to play the game. That is for the integrity of the league. And I don't know, if that's always going to be the case across the board, but certainly from my perspective, we as coaching staff, as football clubs, I want to do everything that we can. Of course, if we have some more cases before the weekend, which is we're testing every day, we are going to be in big trouble and we're not going to be able to. But in this present moment now, I want to do everything that we can to try to play this game. And I believe that we've got a strong squad. So if we lose some players, okay, we're going to have to deal with that. I still believe we go out and we can get a result. So that's what we're working towards. I really, really want to play the game, but we're going to see what the rest of the week brings.
When you talk about the integrity of the league, don't you also owe it to Wrexham, to yourselves, to everybody else that you can name as strong a team as is possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wrexham called the game off for COVID 26th. I saw that, obviously they were struggling with that. They managed to get a game played on the 28th. So they look like they're over whatever they had on Boxing Day. They've got over that. So they should be okay to play. I guess we haven't had any signal from them. And we want to do what we can, and I would always hope that the same will happen later on, that if teams are struggling with some players, that we do what we can to get the game. I understand, the Chesterfield game was off. I think they had nine or 10 cases apparently within the club, and it wasn't possible. So we have to accept that sometimes that's going to be how it is. But as long as teams are really working hard to try to get the games on, I think that's the most important thing. And we want to do that for this weekend. So I hope that we're able to.
Yeah, that's a big call for you, isn't it? As a head coach going into a game against one of the better teams in the division when the table's so tight, to say that you want to play anyway, rather than say, right, let's call it off for when we're going to have everybody available.
Yeah, but what does it say to the players that are available if we call it off? What message am I giving them? I believe that we have a squad strong enough to compete in any moment, in any game, if we get everything right. So then it's really important that we do that. I trust the players. We've got a good squad of players. So if we do miss some, then I believe the strength that we have in depth is going to shine through. And that's going to be important for us, not just for this game, but for the rest of the season. So I think it's that's a good message to send out. I don't think it's a risk in any way.
And in terms of the form that both of your teams are in, Wrexham, after a slightly stuttering start, have really sort of hit the ground running now. And I just think it's a fascinating tie, isn't it, between you two at this stage of the season?
Yeah, I have to say, of all the teams that we've played, I probably felt that they were the strongest outfit we've faced so far. Very, very good players that they've got. They've assembled a really, really strong squad. And it's not a surprise to me at all that they've worked their way up the league, and they are where they are. They're without doubt going to be one of the teams vying for the top spot. And it's a great test for us. I think they're an excellent team, but I think we've been really strong at home. And it's a game that, having missed so much football now, we really, really look forward to.
And at the turn of the year, it's set up fascinatingly, isn't it? You know, there's only, I think, 5 points separating so many teams from the top down to sort of 7th, 8th, 9th. It's set up brilliantly for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really exciting league. You can see that just from, like you say, from top to 9th, there's 5 points and a lot of good teams up there and a lot of teams that probably are going to keep trying to improve. So I think it's going to be as tight as it's ever been. We have to just keep improving, keep in there. You know, if we can do well in the games in hand, we're going to be right up there amongst it. And it's set up for a fascinating second half of the season.